All right, y'all. We are talking about the worst, and I do mean the worst, excuse for not getting married. Not getting married because after having sex, you are now officially married to the person. So not basically just because you had sex with the person, now all of a sudden you're one flesh, you're one person, and you're already married in God's eyes. I don't know where this has come from, and I've heard it a lot. I've heard people try to use this to justify basically not marrying the person that they're with, not having a wedding ceremony or some type of formal gathering to confirm the marriage. I've heard so many people use these excuses and this type of language saying like, oh, well, do I really have to get married? I love her. And in my heart, this is already my wife. And in her heart, I'm her husband. So do we really have to do these things? And what I found personally, and I want to run this by you, I want to get kind of your thoughts on this,
Okay.
but I found that a lot of people take this approach and avoid marriage because they just don't want the commitment. They just genuinely don't want to lock in with a person. They want some type of out, whether it's literally in their mind or in their subconscious or something like that. I feel like these people genuinely want some type of out. They want a lesser committed version of marriage. So a lot of people, again, most people you come across, and I think this is what your experience is, people will come up with every reason as to why marriage is not needed, why everything else functionally can be set up like you would think about a married couple to be, but you don't have to necessarily change your last name, girl, or you don't have to necessarily have an official ceremony and things like that. And I just don't, any man, I can speak from this perspective of a man, any man that's not willing to commit himself in a relationship with a woman is not a man that you should trust long term. You might be able to trust him in a moment, you may be able to trust him for months, years, but long term, over the course of a life, someone that's not willing to commit themselves as a partner to you in life, I don't think is somebody worth dating or even messing around with personally. Because I think, especially one that considers himself to be a Christian, because the Bible says a man will leave his father and mother. Here's the first proof text for you guys, by the way, to think that, oh, it's just enough to have sex with a woman for them to be your wife. But you leave your father and mother and become one with that individual. A lot of folks ain't even left their mother and father and things like that, and they're still under their support. So, but I want to let it out for you, and I want to get your thoughts on this idea of being married after having sex in like a spiritual way.
Yeah. So, bottom line is what you said. If you are calling yourselves a Christian, I just think we really have to get cut dry to the bottom of things. Like, I'm a Christian, yes. What does that mean to be Christ-like? So I need to try to live my life as best in my ability like Christ, okay? Where do I get that example from? The Bible, okay? That's left here, the word, the sword, all the things. In the Bible, does it just say we need to just live together and operate as if we are, be, wifey and hubby and all the things, and that's okay? Does the Bible say that? Does the word that Christians follow say that? No. So at the end of the day, you're saying, yes, I am on paper a Christian, but I am choosing not on purpose to live that way because it's not convenient for me in this time, right? And you talked about how people said, well, like they might say, oh, well, we both paying for the bills.
Right.
We helping each other out.
Don't split the bills.
Yeah, but like you said, that's still that commitment, right? You having out, whatever. Y'all have the worst argument ever, blah, blah, blah. You stop paying for the bills, that's it, okay? At the end of the day, probably one of those people's names are on the bills. So then they got to now handle all of that weight and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because that commitment wasn't there. That agreement wasn't there and in front of God. I've heard so many people say like, oh, you know what? That's just for men, right? People just want to see that and witness that, blah, blah, blah. You can get married in the courthouse.
Yeah.
You can get married at the church with one witness and just the pastor.
Yeah, talk about that.
We're not saying you have to have no big wedding, blah, blah, because some people use the excuse of how expensive it is. It's expensive as you want it to be. Okay?
Yeah.
You decide
True.
how expensive your wedding wants to be. You decide how many people you want to please and stuff. And so we understand that life, like, a lot of people get in a situation where, if they have a child and, it's just like, but we want the child to have both their parents, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But we're just busy with this, blah, blah. I want to get my body back this way. We're both working.
Mm-hmm.
These are all excuses. You can get married. It take what? 30 minutes? I don't know how long it takes. And then you keep on with your busy life that you got.
Yeah.
And so we're just saying, by the Bible standard, not Bradley and Camille's standard, right? We need to get married. Mm-hmm. And then that's the example you're setting for your children, too,
yeah,
when they come into play.
This whole notion that you got to do, I mean, yeah. It's like when people decide that they want, when they get married, they got to have the biggest thing, then it's like, that becomes now the barrier for you getting married altogether is
shouldn't be the
being able to have
anyways.
The biggest celebration.
Yeah.
Like your kings and queens. And I understand wanting to have a nice wedding, especially for women that have grown up. That's something that is floated across your whole childhood, seeing princesses, seeing people get married, seeing extravagant weddings and things like that. But I ultimately, and I understand that, but it's like all these other things are deflections away from the ultimate end goal, which is being with the type of person that is worth being married to. I just think a lot of people look for every way around doing things God's way. We're doing things in a way that both is honorable to God, honorable to your church community, honorable to your family, and things like that. And here's the thing. I understand, even this is probably a little more unpopular ground I'm working on. I understand going to the courthouse and all of that stuff, but I would even caution against what I would call a dishonorable approach to marriage, which is not including the parents of both the man and the woman. They should be in on it. So if you do go to the courthouse, or if you do go with a pastor and just get married that way where there's not other people there, I think bare minimum it should be with the approval of both families. It should be done in a way that honors your father and their mother. And I think that is very important. I don't think that's just cultural. Yes, you're not gonna, I do think that it goes a long way too in how people view the marriage. Because I think there's a way that you can do things that is both honorable in the sight of God, honorable in the sight of families, and you're uniting a family ultimately by getting married. You're bringing together two families. And if you're not careful with that, you just cause all type of division and things like that. And then, like I said, you're creating an out for yourself, I think, whenever you're not willing to commit to a woman that way. Most women want this, by the way.
Yeah.
Most women, it's usually the guys that are able to kind of swindle the women into like whatever, like,
I got you.
Yo, we married. We already married. And, like, it's in here. Like,
nobody got you like I got you.
What is that? Like, y'all.
Don't fall for the okie doke.
Some men are really smooth talkers. Some men can tell you all the things you want to hear, or they'll convince you that something you don't want that. You don't have to. We don't have to do that. Like, hey, it's about us. Forget about what other people think about us.
There you go.
No, it does matter what other people think. We don't live our lives truly like that. Now, we don't do it to the extent that it's unhealthy and that we are just completely stationary. But no, it does matter what other people think, because if we're being honest, there's a big portion of our lives that is predicated on how people perceive us, how we move. But that shouldn't be the end all be all, but it is a factor that I think matters, because family matters. Like, you don't just go out of your way to abandon family or to make moves that dishonor family and things like that. So those are our thoughts on this. This is an interesting topic, but I just encourage you all, want better for yourself. If you're a woman, want to be with a man that wants to have a celebration. And I'm not talking about financially this extravagant one, but one that wants to celebrate the union of man and woman with his family and have it be a moment where the families can be united. Like, want to be with somebody that has more to bring to the table. Stop leaving so much on the table with these goofballs that just, play with words and come up with these fake, deep spiritual type stuff that aren't even really even spiritual.
Ooh, let's go.
So those are our thoughts. Yeah. Love to know what you all think in the comment section. Make sure you drop a comment below.
Yes.
And before you head out, hit that thumbs up for us. And if you really enjoyed this and want to see more, subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos.